Welcome to Let's Talk Call-In Radio. And yeah, we're
talk.
Oh, where are we? Oh, am I? Oh, there we are. Sorry about that. I had Mike 2 go up instead.
Well. This is Let's Talk, getting to the root causes of the important issues of the day. This on-the-air community forum believes your voice matters and welcomes all thoughts and views without judgment. Please join today's conversation by calling 415-663-8492. And, your hosts today...
Yes?
Are Shelley Rugg.
Howdy.
On the board.
On the board.
Working the board. And Stephen Hurwitz.
That's me. My name.
That's you. Close to the mic, please. And Paul Raffel. And today it's called Let's Talk Noise. Let's talk about noise, and mainly, noise pollution. Well, I guess... The definition of noise is that it's unwanted sound. So, yeah. And how we've become so accustomed to noise, maybe not here in West Marin.
I would say we live in a very rarefied atmosphere.
But I again started with an article and a personal experience. But I'm interested in the noise thing. Anyway, but I should say, please give us a call, 415-663-8492 or 8317. And when you call in, Shelley will hit a little button, and that will make a funny little noise. Just hang on until Shelley says you're on the air, and then give us a name and... turn down your radio, and please watch your language. This is live radio.
Did that sort of creep in, or has that always been there?
What's that?
She said that'll give you a funny little noise.
Funny little noise. I can't understand a word you're saying. Anyway, I read an article about this wonderful man who is he's an acoustic ecologist, and he came to a sort of revelation at a point in his life that listening to the world through a microphone changes the way you listen to sound, because all sound is there. All sound has the same importance. All sound has the same, I don't know, importance, I suppose, is the word. Instead of when you're just listening with your ears, because we can't block out our ears, we can't close our ears. Our brain filters out noises that we're just getting accustomed to, or that are not important for what we're doing at the time. So he goes out to places. He goes to cities. There's a wonderful little short film about him on, what's it called? The Emergence magazine site, which is, Emergence apparently is an Inverness magazine, online magazine. Yeah. Second,
it's the first time I'm hearing of it.
Yeah, me too. Lions was kind enough to send me a link to it, because there's a short film about this same guy, Gordon Hempton, and he goes to cities and he just stands with a microphone listening to everything. And, in the city, it's all just man-made horrible noises, except when the wind's blowing hard and people are indoors. And then he goes to his favorite place, is what he's calling the quietest place in America, which is up in the Olympic National Park, right? That's what it's called, in Washington. Up in the forest there's a spot where, because it's in a valley, and because it's all moss and tall trees, and it's just perfectly buffered, it's like being in a quiet room. Wow. And unfortunately, on Whidbey Island, there's an Air Force base, and they don't call it the Olympic National Park, Olympic Peninsula National Park, they call it the war testing zone or something.
Oh, boy.
Something like that, war exercise zone. And so they're flying their jets. These happen to be called growlers, and they're renowned for being really noisy. And they're flying in, treetop level and doing,
Have you ever been to Coronado,
right
California?
over that spot, huh?
They have an Air Force base at the very end of the island, and these planes crash along the beach, with their noise.
Yeah. No, I went to Whidbey Island a long time ago and went to a campground there, and 6 o'clock in the morning, here come the boys flying over at treetop level.
Keeping us safe for democracy.
Anyway, but so it got me thinking, this guy, he leads people into this little place, and just has them experience silence for and there's no such thing as silence, of course, because everything, there's noise all the time. Well,
there's noise inside your own self.
Right.
Yeah.
We had some visitors from Palo Alto, Gail's cousins, and they spent the day in Marshall, and she was astonished. She said, "It's so quiet."
Mm-hmm. Well, at your place, yeah.
It is quiet. But I'm just saying that she noticed the difference. It was just so phenomenally different.
Well, see, this is the thing. It got me thinking about how much sound we are accustomed to and how we may be forgetting the value of silence, that silence, quiet, peace and quiet is a really important thing for our mental health, for our thinking abilities. There's a quote from someone who says, at some point, this is a guy called George Prochnik, also in Emergence magazine, at some point the inability to hear oneself think becomes the inability to think.
Oh, hey, we have a caller.
Ah, well.
Caller, you are on the air. What's your name?
My name is Emmanuel.
Emmanuel.
Thanks for calling in.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
I was privileged enough to be able to be in a room without sound. My daughter worked at Centre Pompidou in Paris, and downstairs, about 6 floors down, there are all kinds of experiments of sounds and music. Pierre Boulez worked a lot over there. And there is a silent room. It's called a silent room.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be there for very long because you're going to fall down. Because if you have no noise, your body doesn't know what's up and down. And I did crouch down on my knees after maybe 35 seconds.
Wow.
Because it's impossible for a human being not to survive without the sound. Now, this is a big difference between this and those jets flying at the trees. But it is possible to not hear sounds, and it's not pleasant.
Right. Yeah, there was another article that I read about, there's a similar room somewhere in Minnesota, at a lab, and it's the quietest place on Earth. It actually measures negative decibels. And they challenged people to sit in the chamber in the dark. Said, you can adapt to it. The quieter the room, the more things you hear. You'll hear your heartbeat, your lungs, your stomach. You become the sound. But it will drive you crazy because you orient yourself, as you said, with sound. We orient where we are, our position in space, through sound. We don't actually realize that very much, but apparently that's so.
Until we lose our sight.
So you had that experience. That's wonderful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sound, you don't want
thanks for
dead
calling
air.
in.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Don't they call it dead air on the radio?
Dead air. Oh, we don't want dead air. Although, at some point during the show, I would like to have a moment's silence.
I think that's a great
That was
anyone's honor.
That was actually that was an idea from Beth up in Tamales. She said, "Why don't you start the show with a moment of silence?" And I thought that would be a little worrying for everyone involved.
Why is it that we link a moment of silence usually as a memorial or...
There you are.
Why
so
do we do that?
Silence has always been a part of religious practice, right? I mean, meditative practice in all religions requires that you are somewhere peaceful. And a moment of silence, respect for people who have passed on, is just one of those things. Let's stop making some noise for a moment. Let's just stop what we're doing, because everything we do makes noise, right? Here I am talking away.
Isn't it settling also, silence? Don't you think it's kind of settling?
Settling, oh yes. Well, so that's, and one of the wonderful things about this man, Gordon Hempton, he says we have a call.
Oh, we do?
He says that silence is not the absence of something, it is the presence of everything.
Sort of like white.
Huh.
Sort of like white.
Like white, it's the presence of all colors, right?
Yeah.
All right, caller, you are on the air. What's your name?
Sally.
Hi, Sally.
Shall
Oh. Congratulations, Shelley, on winning that raffle basket.
Yeah, that was awesome. I loved it.
I wanted to give a little anecdote or tell a little story that my dad, who talk about silent, he never said much, particularly to me.
Oh.
And he once told me that he had gone on a cruise to Alaska, up that inland passage. And he went on I think a helicopter ride that took him to the top of a glacier or a mountain. I can't remember. This is a long time ago he told me this story. I was just so busy being shocked that he was telling me a story. But he said he couldn't believe it. He got out and he sat there and it was absolutely dead silent. No noise at all. And he said it was the most fabulous thing he's ever experienced. He was so happy about it. And I thought that was really interesting.
Well, it's lovely, and we are fortunate in that we live in this place where, at night anyway, you can experience almost silence.
You know,
right?
from Marshall, though, the noise of the Sir Francis Drake, it can be
Highway 1.
Is that one out to the... no.
Marshall?
No, I'm talking about the noise across the bay.
Oh, yes.
There's some real traffic noise coming out of there.
Yeah, you take a walk at...
Right.
You can also hear the ocean.
From our house, you can hear the ocean.
Yeah, I think
top of the hill.
I think. See, I'm a big enjoyer. I don't think that's a word of acoustics and sound and natural world sound. So I like what atmospheric conditions do to sound. I think it's all very interesting, and I think in terms of noise, the noise connotes unpleasantness. There is a whole genre of music that's sort of like noise.
Right.
The New York, No New York, that whole movement. I don't enjoy that at all, but I like sound in context. So if you're in a quiet area and then you hear the coyotes, for example, that's a beautiful kind of sound.
Right.
And I get very excited to hear the ocean, especially not being directly on the ocean. The fact that sound is drifting over with the fog, or just that it's a quiet night and you can hear that noise.
Yeah.
It's too thrilling for me.
Yeah.
You know, where we live...
I love it, too.
Where I live, in the wintertime, all the frogs come out of the mud or hatch or whatever, and they literally take over the night. The sounds of the night are taken over by these frogs croaking, and I find it comforting. I like that.
So you wouldn't call that noise?
With you.
No, I wouldn't call it noise. You're right.
Oh, it's a symphony. It's like a great choral symphony. It's fantastic. I agree with you. The last thing I want to say, and then I will go away. and let other callers phone in, is that I do also suffer from, I want to say, a sensitivity because
misophonia?
No, I have vertigo that comes and goes. And along with vertigo, part and parcel of it is hypersensitivity to volume and noise. And there are times when I feel like I have to have earplugs in, and then there are other times when I'm so robust and fine that I can go to a concert, I bring the earplugs, and I end up pulling them out just because I want to be, like, slammed by a live concert. I want to hear them. I want to hear the music, and so I think that what our society has wrought is problematic in that, because it's almost like gorging yourself when you go to hear music that, and I'm talking about like punk rock or that sort of cathartic experience of just being enveloped and maybe even overtaken.
Injurious is the word.
Yeah. My son just went to see a band that he loves so much. He came all the way up to the Bay Area from L.A. to see this band, My Bloody Valentine. And he, this is a young man, and he said, "Oh my God, it was not pleasant. It was so loud. It made me feel sick."
Hey, Sally, let me give you some numbers here, though, considering you're talking about that. Any sound at or above 86 decibels can damage your hearing. Normal conversation is about 60 decibels. A lawnmower is 90, and a loud rock concert is 120.
Yeah.
So we're creating, though, a group of people who are whose hearing is going to be greatly impaired as they grow.
Exactly.
Buy stock in
and
hearing
he's a
aids.
musician, so I said to him, "You must protect your ears."
Yeah, absolutely.
My son does. He wears earplugs.
Well, you got to wear earplugs.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you want to immerse, but in that experience, you have to be protective because your ears are it's your livelihood. It's an integral part of your livelihood. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you for this show.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
As long as I'm giving statistics, if you don't
415-663-8492. Speak into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry. My two. Okay, fine. I just felt like it was too close, this thing.
Yeah, you're listening to KWMR. This is Let's Talk, and we're talking about noise today. And Stephen Hurwitz
is making a little noise.
There he goes.
Not making enough noise.
Yeah, really. Okay. There was an interview with this guy Ted Reuter on Business Insider. If you're not aware of that, it's a great thing to read online. A few years ago, the U.S. Census Bureau did a survey on what people liked and disliked about their neighborhoods. What they found was that noise was America's number one complaint about their neighborhoods and the number one reason why they wished to move.
Yes, exactly. And yet, it's so, I had some, it's wonderful that people write to me, and it was, a couple of them were sort of, well, it's not noisy here. First of all, that's the first thing. It's not that noisy here.
Until the weekend.
Until the weekend. As you said, if you take a walk at Millerton Park, you can hear the traffic on both sides of the bay, and it's constant. Not just at the weekends, actually.
Yes.
And it's just this thing that's the background to our lives that we just don't think about. Walking to the Palace Market from here, and you're hearing cars going by. You're hearing all
it's
that.
sort of
it's not
becomes
terrible
like
because
the sound of the
only,
river.
It's a tiny little place, but it's not the sound of a river, and yet we take it for granted. I was shocked to see the most remote place in the lower 48 is only 18 3/4 miles from a road. The most remote place in the wilderness in the U.S., in the 48 states, is only less than 19 miles from a road.
That's comforting that you only have to drive 20 miles.
Oh, you can't drive there. There's no road.
Yeah.
You got to walk.
Oh, I see. You're right. I gotcha.
Got to, but I mean, that's astonishing to me. And yet it's just something that we do. We have to go places. We have to drive. We have to, we have to make noise. Cars make noise. More noise, the better, some people say, especially Harley Davidson
Other
riders.
than the Grinch, right?
Ooh, the Harley Davidson riders.
Yes.
At the weekend. Oh, boy. And we tried years ago to try and get the police and highway patrol to actually enforce the sound laws. There is a Noise Control Act, Federal Noise Control Act, that was defunded by Reagan, but it's still in force. And anything over 80 or 86, is you get a ticket, right? And so what's happened is, though, partly because a lot of policemen are pretty partial to Harley Davidsons themselves, so it's just, that's how they are. It's American steel riding down the road. Sound of freedom, man. But most of them, the loud ones.
Where did you come up with that?
Oh, really? Oh, you should
I'm talking about this sound of freedom.
Sound of freedom, that's what they say. That's what these guys say. They're patriotic. And now, of course, they're in a bit of a quandary because Harley's moving offshore, taking their manufacturing to a different country. Oh no, what are the patriots going to do now? They're going to stop riding Harleys? I don't think
with
so.
With Trump's embargo on steel.
Yeah. So anyway, there are laws against noise pollution that are not enforced. And there is a way to enforce it. The police, when they have not around here because they don't necessarily worry about it too much here, but when they have taken a motorbike rider to court, a Harley rider to court, given him a ticket, they take it to court, and every time there's an attorney hired by Harley to help fight the ticket, and the tickets are always, oh, well, never mind, okay.
Wow.
Don't do it again, naughty boy. But they're taking off the stock mufflers, which are rumbles, right? That's the sound of freedom. And they're replacing them with mufflers that don't muffle, basically. They're just lengths of pipe. Nice. They look great. That's illegal. There is a law against replacing mufflers on motorbikes with non-stock mufflers, especially ones that don't muffle. And there's a plate on the original muffler welded to it and a plate on the chassis of the bike. And if they don't match, you can get a ticket if the police ever enforce that law. They don't. So you don't even have to try and measure it because there's too many ways of getting past that because they say, oh, it's the ambient. It's all the walls on each side. It's just it wasn't measured right, and all this sort of stuff. So
I've
too
noticed
many variables.
Several times. I don't even know how many times in the Point Reyes Light sheriff's calls. Industrial noise.
Yeah,
that's all it says.
Well,
industrial
noise. That would be someone like me sawing a piece of wood.
I was going to say, do you cover your ears when you use a table saw?
Yeah. Now. But I do have tinnitus all the time.
I suffer from an illness regarding noise. It's called misophonia.
Misophonia?
You want to define that?
Well, when they define it, it talks about rage, but it's not really rage. I am deeply disturbed by the sound of chewing, about the sound of people eating. You also?
Oh.
For
me, it depends on who it is.
But it's not a pleasant.
It's very disturbing.
If it's someone I don't like, it really bugs me.
Wow.
Because I've noticed
the sound of chewing?
Yeah, I've noticed that when I'm with somebody I do care about, it doesn't bother me so much. I'm like, oh, that's a comfortable sound.
Oh, that's cute.
But if it's coming from someone else,
In fact, I was sitting at the breakfast table this morning eating my toast and wondering if I was disturbing my partner because it was a loud piece of toast. I have to say,
I'm okay if I'm
eating
eating
a very crunchy crust.
If I'm
Maybe
eating at the same time,
get the caller and call in.
It doesn't bother me. Yeah. Maybe my own crunching
and eating with your mouth open. Ooh.
Well, I can even remember
give us a call, 415-663-8492. Give us your pet noise peeve.
I remember the very first moment I was aware of it. I can still remember it.
What was it?
I was in childhood. We used to go and watch TV in the den. And my father, sometime in that evening, would go into the kitchen and make himself a salami sandwich. And he would come back and he would eat it. And I can remember just how much it grated. This was the first time I was aware of it.
Wow.
We don't want to hear our parents chewing, and we don't want to know that our parents have sex or anything.
We don't want to know anything about that. I did get that's interesting though. What's it called again? Mesophonia? Does that mean actually what does that mean?
Well, it's from Greek meaning hatred of sound.
Into the mic, please.
It was from Greek meaning hatred of sound.
Hatred of sound. Oh, well.
They say rage triggered by people munching, chewing, sipping, chomping their food.
Interesting. I've never heard that.
I suffer from that. It's very hard.
I got an email from Susanna who said, yes, noise. Always keep in mind, the louder the motorcycle, the smaller the penis. Signed Susanna, authority on noise, not penises. Wait, thank you, Susanna. That was wonderful. But yes, that was a pet peeve of mine. I no longer live right on Highway 1 in Marshall. Marshall, I might say, has become a visitor hub, with Hog Island being as successful as they are. And so there is constant, weekends, but even during the week, during the summer, constant traffic through there. And I had no idea until we moved to a quieter place how much background noise I'd just been accustomed to.
Well, you lived right in the center of it all.
Yeah, 2 doors from Hog Island, and in a place that was mostly garage with no insulation in the roof or anything. So all the noise on the road would come into the house, or into that part of the house. And I just got used to it. I still get enraged when I heard the Harleys coming in groups of 50.
Yeah. I used to live in Southern California, in Long Beach, and where I lived was a block away from the freeway, and that's at least 4 lanes on each side. It was in the flight path of the planes that were taking off and landing at the airport. It was a block in from a major street that buses went up and down, and cars. And, do you guys hear electricity? Mm-hmm. Do you notice the sound of electricity? It could be if you're near power lines, you'll hear it as crackle if it gets damp at night. But when it's really quiet, I notice it particularly where now, because it is so quiet in West Marin.
That 60 hertz hum.
That I hear that buzzing of the electricity.
Buzzing in the walls.
And we have a caller. Let me do a station break. This is KWMR, Point Reyes Station, and you're listening to Let's Talk. We're talking about noise. And caller, you're on the air. Please tell us your name.
So, Amanda, will you guys keep it down? No, I was just listening to you, and I was remembering that I lived in a place in Oregon where we had a main house that was shared, and then we each had these little tiny cabins that were out in the woods. And it was so nice because we weren't really near a road, and also there was not a refrigerator in the building where we were sleeping, because refrigerators make a lot of noise.
They do.
And so that was a very nice thing. And also having a business that has lodging on Highway 1 here in West Marin, I'll often get people who will think they're coming out from the city to this really quiet place. And I have to say, if you're looking for quiet and solitude, it'll be quiet at night for the most part, unless an emergency vehicle goes by. But during the day, there's a lot of traffic going.
Right. Yeah, you're right on a corner there.
Right on the corner, and there's a lot of dust and a lot of noise because of that. But at night, it's pretty darn quiet.
Yeah, we're fortunate to be able to go out at night and just stand there and listen.
Well, hiking the seashore also is pretty quiet.
Except for airplanes, you guys already talked about that guy, the artist, who was trying to create like the 1 square inch of silence.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so this is really fascinating. I read an article about it. I'm pretty sure that Ellen Shahadi interviewed the person who was working on this several years ago on KWMR. But if you think about that, if you're trying to create one square inch of silence, that means that in that inch, you cannot hear a plane fly over. You cannot hear a car. And I don't even know where you would do that in the continental United States. I mean, there may be a place, but with all the air traffic, it's really a big deal to try to have it be really quiet.
Right. I think I sort of remember, it seems I've read this a long time ago, that the quietest place on Earth where there are no planes flying over, no commercial flights, is somewhere down in Brazil.
Really?
And you can never hear a plane back then. But, that's what they talk about with this, the rainforest on the Olympic Peninsula, is that is...
Yeah, that's where he was sort of doing his thing, I think. But I hear you on the military stuff there, because I grew up in Washington State, and we did stay up on the Olympic Peninsula, and wow, those jets going over and stuff, and I grew up right next to an Air Force base, so yeah.
Boom.
All right, well, carry on with your noisy selves.
Thank you so much.
All right, bye.
Thank you, Amanda. Well, I need to read a few things here for our supporters. Support for KWMR is provided by listeners and by Cover Girls Upholstery in Point Reyes Station. Specializing in full-service upholstery, slipcovers, drapes, cushions, pillows, and fabrics for both indoor and outdoor use. Cover Girls is a priority dealer for Hunter Douglas window coverings and has been recovering West Marin for over 25 years. Now open by chance or by appointment. Information and appointments available by email at covergirlsupholstery@gmail.com or by phone at 415-663-9363. KWMR is supported by our listener members and by the Maritime Radio Historical Society, working to preserve West Marin's rich radio heritage. The nation's last working Morse code station is in action every Saturday from 12 to 4 p.m. at the RCA receiver site, 17400 Sir Francis Drake Boulevard, just past G Ranch, on the Point Reyes Peninsula. Information at 415-663-8982 or online at radiomarine.org. That's radio, MARINE.org. Programming on KWMR is underwritten by Toby's Feed Barn on Main Street in Point Reyes Station, offering hay and feed, garden supplies, gifts, fresh bread and produce, and fine art in Toby's Gallery. Toby's is home to the community garden, Toby's Coffee Bar, Yogato's Studio, and the Saturday Farmers Market during the summer. And you are listening to KWMR, Point Reyes Station. This is Let's Talk with Stephen Hurwitz, Paul Raffel, and myself, Shelley Rugg. And we're talking about noise. So make some noise and call in, 415.
We have a caller on
we have a
line
caller.
one. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah.
Did I? Oh. Call.
Hello?
You're there. Oh, very good. I didn't lose you.
Yeah. I can't believe no one has mentioned barking dogs.
Barking dogs.
Who is this?
This is Frank.
What'd you say?
Frank.
Oh, Frank. Good. Thanks for calling, Frank.
You're welcome.
Are you bothered by barking dogs?
Well, I'm not anymore, but I heard that a month ago there were some neighbors who would let a barking dog out at 3:30 every morning.
Oh my!
And it wasn't just that it would bark, but you know that really nasty sound of a dog that sounds like it's being tortured.
Oh no!
Yeah, you know the way the dog in a kennel might sound. It's going crazy.
Oh, that's sad. That must be really hard to listen to.
Yeah, but I don't have it anymore. I called animal control, and it was taken care of.
Oh well,
there you go.
Well done.
They told another neighbor who they accused of calling. Luckily, they didn't know it was me. And
Well, now they do.
Uh-oh.
I doubt it. But anyway, they said, but it's okay because it was a rescue.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh.
hopefully it got re-rescued.
Another noise thought, too, that when I wake up in the middle of the night to try to get back to sleep, I meditate, and I find that the sound of occasional traffic in the distance actually sounds very similar to waves, and it helps me get back to sleep.
Yeah, that's one of the things I always say when we're near a freeway, walking near a freeway. Oh, listen to the sound of the ocean.
Right.
Yeah, very good, yeah. Okay, we're on the same page. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Frank.
Thanks for calling.
You know, Frank brought up something interesting that just my mind, and that's crying babies. I'm pretty baby-proofed. You know, people are always apologizing about their child crying. I guess if it's on an airplane, that's one thing. But, you know, if you've been a parent, I don't know if all parents are this way, but the crying babies don't bother me. It just comes with the territory. You know, that's what babies do.
That's very
In fact, they need to cry. It's
equanimous.
the way they get exercise.
That's
Well,
very
you
nice.
know,
That's very tolerant.
I had a friend in Long Beach who posted on Facebook complaining about a baby crying and making comments about the parents must not be good at what they're doing and blah, blah, blah. And I had to, you know, chime in and talk about what it's like to deal with a baby. And it's...
Babies cry.
But, you know, we all have different triggers. Right?
And there's a level of, you know, if it's a continual, the child never lets up. And, you know, I'm not going to say that all moments of child crying are fine with me.
Well, but, and you said on a plane, why wouldn't you cry on a plane? That noise on a plane, even in the quietest jet plane, it's just that constant. I don't know
the
how
front
many
of the
decibels
plane,
it is.
especially loud at the
But that's
front.
put babies to sleep. My son Eli used to have, when he had a tantrum, I'd put him in the little child seat and drive. And that was it.
Yeah, the little white
Calm
noise. And or turn on the vacuum cleaner. Somebody used to do that with their child.
I wonder what the decibel of a vacuum cleaner.
Well, there you go.
I used to live with a drummer. And drummers, you know, like anyone who plays an instrument, you need to practice. And so we had created a room that we had put blankets on the walls and, you know, done everything we could think of to muffle the sound. Mm-hmm. But we lived next door to someone who couldn't handle hearing the drums played on a Saturday in the middle of the day.
I can understand that.
And so he would call the police.
Oh.
And this happened several times. And finally the police would stand outside and listen, and they agreed it really wasn't that loud. But the man said that he had a mental health problem and he couldn't
was
deal
disturbed
with
by it.
Right.
Yeah.
And but we also we moved to a different place and set up the drums again, and somebody moved in across the street from us. And one day, I guess the nut cracked. He just couldn't take any more drumming.
Do it anymore.
Yeah. And so what he did, rather than try to reach out to us, he went into his garage. He got in his pickup truck, and just leaned on the horn. And he just sat in his garage with his, hand on the horn endlessly until the other neighbors
Noise rage.
kicked in, and somebody said, "Hey, could you guys stop playing the drums for a little while till we get this guy to stop tooting his horn?" So yeah, it became a noise war.
Wow.
And then he moved away.
And of course, we talk about how we're disturbed by noise. How about wildlife?
I was going to mention that. Does nature in the main not be noise because it's nature? There's certainly sounds, but I think nature is much.
No, in fact, I guess I would classify noise as all noise, as in that sense being anthropogenic. That human noises are except the noises our bodies make or us talking or whatever. But everything we do, we love to have motors and engines and all that stuff, and we love to build things. And
well, there's a difference between sounds and noise.
Yes, exactly. Sound is, I would classify the sound, other than music, I don't know, as natural. The difference between natural sound and noise would be that noise is unpleasant and unwanted and unnatural.
Well, we have screech owls. This has been an amazing year for owls, by the way.
Oh, really?
Oh, my! I think we have 4 different kinds of owls living in our place.
Great.
A lot of rodents, I suspect. But I don't mind the screeching at night. It's just, there it is. And we used to have like hooting. And it's actually, I find it pretty comforting. But if you took that screech of a screech owl into a neighborhood, for example, and just let out these screeches, I wonder how people would feel about that.
So let's see. The making life miserable for wildlife. Take owls, here you are, which use their finely tuned ears to pick up movements of tiny prey in the night. They're showing for every decibel increase in noise, northern saw-whet owls had an 8% lower chance of detecting prey. And all that goes on down the chain, all the way through animal life. There are animals that flee at a sound and have to hear, like deer. They're always checking to, if there's a loud noise, they'll go. When they're in an environment where they can't hear as well, then they're suffering.
Maybe that's why they like our place.
Yeah, exactly. There are cases of. I read an article somewhere that even trees and plants are affected in some areas in their noisy areas, because pollinators and more animal pollinators rather than insects avoid, or bird pollinators and seed dispersers. They leave those areas because they're too noisy for their comfort, and so the trees are not getting pollinated, and
Sally said something.
It goes on down. And the marine noise, the stuff we're doing in the oceans,
and they're not going to quit. They keep testing their sonar
and seismic explosions when they're exploring for gas and oil. They use seismic waves, right?
Well, that's a different story. We need those fossil fuels.
Well, exactly. And the fish just don't appreciate it.
Sally was mentioning something about the ocean. When we walk to the top of our hill on a quiet day, we can hear the waves crashing out at North Beach. And I don't know how many miles away that is. But, you got to say that we live in a pretty quiet spot.
Well, you can hear that in downtown Marshall, too, at night. If the wind's right, or if there is no wind and there's a big surf coming in, then you can hear that just coming over the top of, I guess it's H Ranch right there across from there. It's lovely. I used to enjoy hearing that. Don't hear it so much now.
Well, guess what, guys? We have a caller.
Hi.
Caller, you're on the air. What's your name?
George.
Biff.
Thanks for calling.
It's Biff. I had to share a funny little note that came through as your subject. I love this show. This is fantastic.
Oh,
thank you.
I don't know if anybody's old enough to remember those depictions of what we were going to look like eventually because of the changes in our environment.
Our lives of the future?
Yes, and one of the depictions showed a person, I don't know, they had other qualities to them, but regarding hearing, the person had flaps over their ears to protect them from the sound assault.
Yeah, why not? I have to say.
Will that be part of our evolution?
Evolution, yes. If we're
protecting our hearing,
we're more than 50% an urban population now. So, I don't know how people live in cities. I have to say.
Well, and there was the other thing I was curious about. If maybe Mr. Factoid there, Steve, if you have
only if I look it up,
any information on the effect of close contact sound, earbuds and headphones.
Oh yeah.
And because really in society, I think people escape to our headphones to have our little world away. and but that sound force is actually really close to our eardrum then. So I'm curious how it's measured and what the effect is when we're listening.
Well, you know what might be even worse than the sound is the device itself, the EMFs that it emits.
What about music as background? I find that sometimes I want to concentrate. I'll put the headphones on and listen to music, and that's nice background music. It actually closes. It actually shuts down the other stuff, and I find it increases my ability to concentrate.
Well, and more and more people are using, as George was saying, earbuds. In the cities, you see a lot of people with earbuds.
Right.
You can actually, I would say the percentage has got to be approaching 50% of the people you see walking in a major metropolitan city.
Talking to themselves.
Well, there's that too.
It says, here's a quote, the EPA estimates that 5 million U.S. children suffer from noise-induced hearing loss.
Oh, no.
1 in 5 teens suffer from some form of hearing loss.
Are they attributing it to the headphone use?
Right.
Okay.
MP3 or iPod use should be limited to 60% of maximum volume for no more than 60 minutes per day or 5 minutes per day at maximum volume.
I wonder how much that's being adhered to.
I doubt that it's being adhered to at all.
Right.
The older style headphones that cover the entire ear opening are safer. If your teen is close but can't hear you, it's too loud. There is a tool, I don't know what that means. I guess there's a website, Dangerous Decibels, has... Oh, guidelines on decibel exposure time.
I imagine that there's an app that can actually give you an example of what 60 decibels sounds like when you have your headphones on, that sort of thing.
I'm sure there is, yeah. I bet there is. I bet there's an app that will just play white noise at 60 decibels.
Yeah, just so that you can get a sense of what that would feel like.
Yeah.
They say that's normal conversation, 60.
So I don't know who you are, but I think I detect a musician's voice there. Have you had your hearing affected by being in the music biz?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What? Actually, I haven't in a while. My partner has mentioned sometimes that I should get my hearing checked. That's a whole other subject.
I think that's something else.
I'm due for a check. I do regularly make sure that I haven't done any damage, and so far, so good.
All right.
And that's my livelihood, but I'm with Sally as far as if I want to be immersed, I want the full concert experience. I want to be blasted at that moment. So I'll have that moment, but I'm aware that I did that, so I'll give my ears a rest too.
Right. Well, for
whether that works or not, I don't know.
I don't know. I know. Yes, come out of a concert and your ears are ringing.
Don't you think, in general, though, at concerts they turn the volume too high?
Well, good luck on getting anybody to. Why don't you try going to a concert sometimes and just, would you turn it down a little?
Turn it down, would you? Grand Funk Railroad?
Yeah, it's just, it's part of the concert-going experience of just being, it's so loud that you can't help but be affected by that moment, visually and orally.
Right.
And I think that's, sound engineers have an equation for a room, for a big hall. It's all digitally dialed in, and I think there are codes enforced as far as that goes as well.
Do you think it's age-related? I think younger people want louder things, and we get older, we want it a little.
I think
we become fogies.
The ears tend to hurt more as you get older.
You're right, Paul. I think sound
flexible.
changes. Our perception of sound might be changing. We might hear certain frequencies a little bit more than others, or something.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's sort of the taste of whoever is running the levels on the soundboard. I personally think there are some sound levels that are painful and too loud, and that you can feel immersed in the music by maybe getting the bass levels up a little more and not having to cause pain.
No, that's a really good point you brought up. I remember hearing stories of people being in the studio with Todd Rundgren, who always would monitor his records at just ear-bleeding levels. And that range of around 2K, which is it's sort of above the mid-range. For him, he couldn't hear that because he had destroyed so much of it in his own hearing. So he needed to hear it louder in that frequency in order to make it sound good to him.
Oh, my goodness.
To destroy everyone else's ear.
The room was just,
wow.
Well, and music has to do with the venue, too. I mean, you see...
But to your point, I mean, if you're doing sound for a room and maybe your ears have been damaged by years of abuse, you might be dialing in more and more 2K into the sound, which is that's the painful sort of range.
That's a very interesting point, yeah.
Anyway, I'm going to go. I love you all.
Thank you, George.
Thanks for calling.
See you.
Thank you, Biff.
Yeah, if you want to call in and add to this conversation, dial 663-8492.
So here's guidelines on dangerousdecibels.org. Rainfall is about 50 decibels. Heavy rain, I guess. Typical speech, about 60. Washing machine, 75. Busy city traffic, about 85 decibels.
Oh, my.
So if you're in a city, and may I just say that this subject also came up from a personal experience. We went off to Portland, Oregon, went to the middle of the city, sort of, and got an Airbnb there, and it was stinking hot in Portland, so everyone had their window air conditioners. That alone was noisy enough, but it's kind of white noise during the night. You're just going, but what we didn't realize until early in the morning was that the house was right behind a Jiffy Lube, so we woke up to the sound of air wrenches in the morning. Anyway, and it wasn't terribly loud. It didn't hurt or anything, but it was certainly disturbing. And that's the kind of thing that just happens all the time, right? I mean, traffic noise at 85 decibels, which is on the range of hurting your ears if you listen to it too long. And
I would caution people: do not buy a refrigerator with a freezer that's on the bottom instead of the top. Cold air. As you know, drops, it falls. So the freezer is what's responsible for the cold of a refrigerator. So it needs to pump the cold air up to the top.
Interesting.
So the pump is the motor's working much more than the top freezer.
I didn't know
I would
that.
never buy one again.
Wow.
Never. I thought, it's going to be so easy.
Very important, actually, because as Amanda was saying, everyone's used to the fridge running. I mean, it's just background noise in a house. But
my refrigerator's actually in a closet, but good. You can still hear it.
Yeah.
You know, when it gets really quiet.
Well, and good old Montgomery Ward, when I was in my house in Marshall, and I slept in the same room as it was just a little kitchen with a sleeping space in it, dining room. It was the quietest refrigerator I've never heard. It was Monty Ward, a very old fridge that
I was going to say that.
But and one of the loudest fridges I've heard was a so-called green fridge. It was more environmentally conscious or something, but it was super loud because the compressor was in the open, basically, on top of the fridge. So you could...
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Anyway, leaf blower, 115. Jackhammers, 120. Jet plane from 100 feet, about 130 decibels.
Do they have chainsaw on there?
Fireworks.
Speaking of
140 decibels.
That's my.
But the ubiquitous leaf blower, there needs to be some controls on that, in my opinion. Those things are loud.
A lot of places have, and of course they're making some that are more enclosed now, the sort of backpack ones that have insulation
How
around
about a
them.
broom?
Yeah, well, then you have to probably pick it up. But if you can just blow it away, you can blow it into the street, and then it all
Or the
blows
neighbor's
back.
yard, yeah.
And you can do it again tomorrow. It's job enhancement. Anyway, this has been Let's Talk Call-In Radio. Thank
All
you
right.
to everyone for calling.
Very popular subject.
I want to thank all our listeners and callers. Thank you so much. Tune in every Thursday at 11. KWMR does not take a stand on any of the issues discussed on Let's Talk. Opinions expressed on this program are those of the hosts and callers and don't necessarily reflect the views of KWMR, its board of directors, underwriters, or members. And we'll be back next week. And I say, let's just have... don't want to alarm anyone. Let's have 5 seconds of silence. There you go. 5 seconds.
You're
5 seconds
five
of dead air.
faster
3.
than my 5.
I say.
So, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Stephen. Thank
My
you,
pleasure.
Shelley.
Thank
well
you,
done
Paul.
on the board again.
Thank
Really
you.
nice job on the board.
Glad you're here to help.
And we'll be back next Thursday. Thanks, everybody.